Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Carol here at Oak House Journals and I'm tackling Margarete Miller's Collage Weekly Planner assignment for week 47 today. So I've got all my pieces here in front of me. The prompts are key. Well, the only silver key I had in amongst my stash was this little one. It's not ideal. I'm not sure if I am going to be able to work it into my piece today, but I'm certainly going to give it a try. The second prompt is your handwriting. So I've got a piece of paper, I've got my fountain pen in here, and I'm going to be writing something in a moment, and I'll do that in hyperlapse. Something that represents an event is the third prompt, and I've lifted out some tickets here. Not very original, but I thought this would work in with my piece quite well today. So I've got a couple here that are like an icy grey blue colour, and these two that are green. Now, in honesty, I think these two are going to be my choice, but I've just lifted these two out to give me options. Something wintry. Well, as you can see off to one side here, I have some die cut snowflakes that I did earlier on this morning. I've also got a little embellishment that I thought I could use in the center, and I've also got in here some vellum snowflakes that I cut out a while back, and if I just tilt these forwards, I may well be able to use those on my background today. The next prompt is origami or anything folded. Well, if you watch me on my channel, you know I have a passion for origami, but I'm resisting the temptation today. I'm going for one, maybe two items that are incredibly simple to fold. They are not new in the slightest, and you will have seen them 101 times done by other crafters. I may well use both of them together, or I might just use one. We'll see how the mood takes me. And for that, I have this beautiful parchment paper here. It's quite thick. I would say that's about 180 GSM. It's got a lovely colour tone to it. And the bonus prompt is something painted, and I've got these two lovely backgrounds here that have been painted, and these are just perfect for what I have in mind. They are very grey blue tones, they're slightly embossed, and this colour palette certainly shouts to me wintry colours. I have another small portion of this. I could put that on there as my background. If I rip it, will give a nice effect. So first things first, I'm going to tear this to the inside working area there, and I'm going to write on my piece of paper here, my scrap of white paper, so that I have something to hit the prompt for your handwriting, and I will be back when that's done. So the vellum that I tore, or the parchment, I've glued onto here. Has made my page curl a little bit, but I think that'll flatten out, certainly when it's in the journal that I create for this. Just got a loose corner up there, so I'm just going to put a little bit more glue up there. Sorry, couldn't get my words out then. And you also saw me tear away the edges on these two pieces, just really to give a bit more interest. I was hoping that I could get a white core coming through, which would make it more pronounced. I could ink the edges, but I'm not going to, and I may well rip more of this one away, and that line up there is looking like an obvious place to rip it if I do. You also saw me write out a poem about winter on here, and now that I've done that, I'm going to rip it. I've written it in a bluey green ink, which I was hoping would go quite well on here. And what I'm going to do is just rip it across the top there, because that's quite heavy, and I'm going to tear a little bit off the bottom here as well to give me a torn edge, and the same down the sides. And now I'm just going to tear it down the middle like that. Okay, so what I'm thinking is to use this to act as a bit of a border for my folded piece when I get it in place, and this still might be a bit too big, but it'll do for now. Before I go any further, I want to create my folded pieces. I've brought in this other piece of the vellum that I had, and I'm just going to rip away a long strip of this about 2 inches wide. So this is the piece of paper that I've just ripped, slightly wider than 2 inches. I didn't measure it, I just went with what felt right. And as you can see, I've put some creases in it. So I'm folding that piece up, and then this piece will come down over the top. I've drawn a couple of lines here, and I'm just going to trim that away using my deckled edged trimmer. That's my little folded piece to form part of my collage. So I'm just burnishing these creases. I'm planning to have my pieces like this, with that almost as a focal point. I like the writing across the top of this ticket, so I'm wondering about putting it in here like that, cutting across that line there and just having it staggered in there, using the other ticket upside down, again taking away this wavy bit at the bottom, and this time tucking it behind, or maybe in here. Let's have a look. So if I take away that from that line there, I've got a staggered piece at the bottom. So whether I have it on there like that so that it's showing, or whether I tuck it behind. So let's have a look at it tucked behind. And I think if I tuck it behind, it looks too random. It won't balance out with that piece. And maybe I'm trying to be too symmetrical with my collages, but I'm thinking that it's going to go better like that. So yes, I'm going to do that. I'm having to be a little bit careful and not glue these pieces down, in particular these two painted pieces, for the simple reason I'm going to do some sewing on these, I think. I'm just going to hold that in place, and I'm just going to tear away this bottom portion here. I'm going to have it as far as I can sticking out this edge here. Gives me an even border there, and I'm going to rip away this top portion again, same as I did on the other one. I've shortened this piece by ripping it across the top just below where that line was. That's giving me better proportions when I place these two together, and that in the middle. So my ticket has got red circles here, which I'm not too bothered about, but there is quite some dark red stamping there. So I'd like to obscure that if I can. Bring in this ticket, and by turning it upside down, I can hide the same red markings there. Pull this down a little bit more, which means I've got leeway to pull this out. Now, this is what's giving me a little bit of concern, is trying to use this paper. So let's pop it in there like that. And this piece, perhaps it's not really working. So let's try the ticket over the top. Okay, that is looking better. Yeah, I am liking that because it's balancing out there and there. Let's go back to these. I could do that. I'm going to go with more or less that configuration. What I need to do, I think, is reduce that so that it comes to about there, and reduce this a little bit more. I'm liking how this piece is looking, so I'm going to glue this piece where it is so that it is together. This is the layout that I've decided to go with. I'm not bothered that I've got quite a big area of the painted paper here and not so much there, because I could always put these little vellum snowflakes on here, and that's what I had planned to do when it was much larger. As you can see, I've tucked this ticket behind, and similarly this one. So I'm going to glue those two pieces in place. This piece here, which opens, I think would look better with just a scrap tucked down in this corner and another one up there. So I'm going to glue this one in place and find this piece, I think, to go up in that top corner, and then reassess where I'm going from there. So let's just glue those two portions in place. So my tickets are glued in place, and also this bit, and I'm going to take this away now to my sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch around these painted pieces with some white thread, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put this in place. So let me go away and do that. I've stitched around this piece now that it's all glued together with rows and rows of white stitching, and I didn't want any definition on here in terms of colour. All I wanted was a little bit of texture. So that's ready to go down on my piece now, like that. And this is the piece that I wanted to bring in here. I thought that I would just use a little portion of that handwriting up there. I think I'll have it like that, so I'm just going to level up that piece there. I'll have it tucked in there. I'm just going to put a dab of glue behind here. As it stands at the moment, I have got my event piece, I have got my painted piece, I've got my handwriting, and I've got something that opens. Now, I did think originally that for something opening I would have perhaps two features on here. Loving the icy colours. So this is where I was thinking that if needs be I could, let's just pop a bit more glue under there. If needs be, I could just leave it like this and put my embellishment on the top there like that. I'm not sure how many of these I would want to use. I could use a couple just layered up like that, and then put my little centre embellishment on there, and then scatter around some of these and just leave it very, very simple. Let's have a look at that with just that big one in place. Now, I am liking that. Let's have a look at this one. And that's pretty as well, actually. I'm liking the simplicity of that one much better than this one. It probably does need a fairly large focal piece on here. And actually, I think both of those would go. I could put that in place and bring in my little key and just glue it very simply into the centre like that, and just leave it and walk away. Or I could go ahead with these snowflakes, one or either of those, and just have my key tucked away in the pocket there. I mean, this wasn't meant to be a pocket, but I could create that as a pocket and just have my little key tucked away inside there, or even just glued in there. Let's see what these are going to look like. Ah, they're not all vellum. I thought they were, but they're not. They're white, and that is just as good. In fact, probably nicer. So I've got various sizes and designs of these, and the vellum ones could go on this vellum background and just be very, very subtle, and these white ones maybe could tuck away down there. I've just put a few of the vellum snowflakes randomly on my piece, and this is a white one, not a vellum one, because I thought that would stand out better. So I'm just going to give these a dab of glue and secure them in place. Now I need to decide which of my snowflakes goes on here. Now, I've auditioned this one and it makes a really big impact as a focal element, which I think is good. I've got this one which is slightly smaller, and I'm not having them down on the point, I'm having them slightly raised up so the point comes between the spikes of the snowflake. Now that one I think looks quite nice. Looks a little bit lost as it is, but it works well. Or I've got this little one here, and I have to say I quite like this little one. It is quite delicate, and I think it's in keeping with everything else, and I wanted to try and keep this quite delicate, this one. Now I could have this little embellishment in the centre, and that would work quite nicely and be very pretty. But then I've got to find a home for my key. Now I thought that I could perhaps have it up here, but it doesn't feel particularly balanced if I do that. So if I take away the charm, that charm, the snowflake charm, and bring this one in and centre up the heart with the centre of the snowflake, a little bit tricky until I glue it down, that would work. Keeps it all very simple, and also the little bit of black round the heart picks up the black here and the black here, and it gives me a line of 3. So that's the one I'm going to go with. A snowflake inside on the back here, and that would actually hide where I'm going to be putting the glue for the key, or well, not hide it, but it would cover it up a little. So I'm going to go with that, like that. And one of these I could always either glue in there or just have it so that it's tucked in the pocket there. So I've got a few more little wintry bits and bobs tucked away in a pocket. So that might be quite a nice idea to do that. Or I could just glue them on the front. This is my finished assignment piece for this week, which is week 47. And it was a little bit of a struggle pulling it together. I knew what I wanted to create, but actually making it work wasn't working. So the end result is not a million miles away from what I had in mind, but it's still not exactly what was in my mind's eye. But am I happy with it? Yes, I am. I wanted to keep it fairly delicate. I wanted to keep it simple this week, and I think I've got there. I've got icy colours, so I'm happy with that. So let's go through the prompts. A key. Well, I've put my little key charm on the front here. I've snipped away the loop at the top and the jump ring that was there, and I've just glued it down using some glossy accents, and it's sitting nicely on the top of my flap here. Handwriting, I've got a scrap of my handwriting there and also here. Something that represents an event, well, I've got the faux ticket behind here and just that little piece at the top peeping out, and another one down here, and I like how the two are balancing out the corners. Winter, well, for winter I chose my snowflakes, so I've got vellum snowflakes on this white parchment background, and I've got a few more down here, and I've actually got a white pearlescent card snowflake there, and obviously I've got this one which is my mirror board, and if I open this up I've also got another one in there, and the snowflake charm embellishment that I was auditioning on the front here I've popped inside there. It does make this flap a little bit dimensionalized, but I've got plenty of room in my journal for this to go, so it's not going to be a problem. The penultimate prompt was origami or anything folded. Well, I had an idea to have a secret journaling spot with this and to have my snowflakes on the front holding this closed, and then you pull it to open it up and you've got your little secret journaling spot. This is too heavy a weight parchment to be able to do that. My snowflakes, even though they are cut in mirror board, just weren't going to be strong enough to hold that, even with this well burnished and well creased. And actually when I put it on the front, it just looked scrappy. It wasn't working at all. So I'm glad I didn't go with that idea, and I just went with this simple fold idea. At one stage I thought I might glue it down the sides here and create a pocket and put my key in the pocket, but I actually like my key on the front, so I'm happy to leave that just as a little flap that will open up, and I could use it as a journaling spot if this was going in a journal, but it's my something that opens or something that's folded, and that is good enough for me. And the bonus, something painted, well, I went with these two lovely pieces of painted card here that were painted and embossed in this gorgeous icy grey blue colour, which to me was very much reminiscent of winter. So there we go, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it wasn't too tortuous seeing this one come together this week. I'm hoping too that this will flatten out in my journal. I'm pretty sure it will. And I hope to see you next week for the next assignment, which is number 48. Until then, everybody, bye from me, and pictures at the end as always. Take care. Bye-bye now.